I guess that's the excitement of digital versus analog is that it's the risk, and the risk is exciting to do it again because that might have been the best take.
Hello and welcome to the Earfuel podcast. My name is Joel Freemark, and as always, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheDailyGuru and @GetEarfuel. What you heard at the top was part of the interview I did with the band Soccer Team a few weeks back. They have a brand new record out, and before we get to the interview I did with them, well, let's talk about that brand new album. It's by Soccer Team, and it's called Real Lessons in Cynicism. Now, if you don't know Soccer Team, your ears are going to really, really love you when you change that, and I suggest you change that right away. Originally comprised of just two people, Ryan and Melissa, their first album was called Volunteered Civility and Professionalism. It was released back in 2006, and then a little bit after that, the band went on an indefinite hiatus because Ryan moved out of state. Anyone who heard that first record was, well, like myself, very disappointed that there wouldn't be another Soccer Team album. It was and is an extraordinary record, and it just kind of sort of became, at least for me, one of those great what ifs. What if they made another Soccer Team record? How cool would that be? And that's really how things were. There weren't any rumblings or anything like that until 2014, when kind of out of nowhere, they released a 3-song 7-inch that was awesome, and on October 27th, they're going to release a brand new album. Now, after nearly a decade apart, it would be safe to expect that there was going to be some rust, or that maybe they grew too far apart musically to really capture that great sound again, but that expectation is completely shattered within the opening notes of the album, and the addition of keyboards to their sound, it becomes one of the best elements of the record, to tell you the truth. They really run the entire sonic gamut throughout this album, as the instrumentation goes from full force, larger rock sounds, to completely minimalist tracks, and every single one of them works brilliantly. Along with that, you're going to find that a different instrument drives each of the songs, and often it's just the vocals that drive things, and not many bands can pull off that sort of diversity. The vocals for me, though, were always one of the best parts of Soccer Team. The harmonies that Ryan and Melissa find, they're wonderfully unique, and they really force you to rethink the entire idea of harmonic structure at times. They're great. You have to check them out. But musically, there's these almost gothic, cold moments like the song Short-Term Expectations. Then you have really, really stripped down pieces like If You Were Here that play brilliantly against the louder rockers like Nose to Chin. And then you've got this almost like angular smashing on the song Dinner with Derelicts. Soccer Team also delivers really catchy tunes like Lazy Colonist and Best Employed New Beau, and these are the sort of songs they're just not going to leave your head, and you won't mind, trust me. There's also a reworking of the song Here's Why Dancers Smoke. It was on the first record, and there's a totally different version here, and we're actually going to talk about the second version during my interview, so I won't waste time with that. But you also have the song Too Many Lens Flares. It transcends so many genres and styles, and the lyric that says it's too bad when genres fall prey to its fans, I know they're talking about movies, but it certainly applies to music as well. Great lyric. All in all, at just 35 minutes, it's very economical, but it doesn't leave out a single necessary element. These songs, they're punk rock in how condensed they are and just how perfectly they play. It leaves you wanting more, but I suppose that's why the repeat button exists, right? The music is the epitome of the meaning creative, from beginning to end, and the way the vocals work around the instrumentations, it's just... This, to me, is what great music is all about. It's absolutely one of my favorite records of 2015, so go over to discord.com and grab a copy. Thank me later. So that all being said, a few weeks ago, I was down in Arlington, Virginia, and Ryan, Melissa, and Jason were kind enough to make some time to sit down and talk with me about the band, the music industry, and tons of other cool stuff. So sit back and relax as the magic of technology transports us to the kitchen table at Discord House, where I had a chat with Soccer Team. I love it. I actually used to record on DATs, old DAT-Man, and right, the old Sony D8s and stuff.
Yeah.
And when they said, "Hey, you can have more," these are live, fully powered inputs and everything, and it can take up to a 32 gig card. I said, "Yeah, I'll gladly get rid of my DAT-Man for that."
Yeah, good deal.
So. Yeah, did you guys record digital, or was that an analog recording for the new album?
Both.
Yeah, it's both. We did, the skeleton of the record was recorded, the basic tracks all on analog first. Mm-hmm. So we have a Tascam 388. So it's half-inch tape. No, not half-inch. Quarter-inch tape, and 8 tracks. And we did in the summer of 2013.
I think only 7 tracks worked, though, right? Isn't there one?
No, I think they were all working for this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason.
But wasn't that also how you started the first record on the same machine? Or
Yeah.
Different machine?
No, it's the same machine. So the first record was done as a mixture of the Tascam 424, the cassette recorder, and the 8-track. And then this one, we use the same machine to do the foundation of the record. So I would play. Jason and I are teachers, so we had the summer off. So in the summer, I worked with Dennis. Dennis works at night. That's why he's not here now. I would work with Dennis on recording analog, and we would do bass and drum tracks. Sometimes I would do bass, and it would be a scratch track, and then Melissa would play the actual bass, or sometimes we just leave it. But basically, we were trying to get drum takes out of Dennis in those days. And then there are some songs that I played drums, in which case Dennis took over. But between the two of us, we would make this sort of foundation. And then Jason would come in intermittently.
Do some guitar, do some whatever the song needed at the time.
Yeah, and then Melissa did the same thing. When Melissa came home from work,
I live with Dennis, so it's in our basement.
Yeah, sorry about that. Should have clarified.
No, it works. Okay.
But yeah, we would. So when Melissa would come, all this happened in Melissa and Dennis's basement. And then, but I would be there like all day, like recording, and then Melissa would come home. Dennis would leave for work, and then Melissa would come home, and I'd be like covered in my own filth because it was so hot down there. Okay, let's record this now. So we did, and the idea was we would load all 8 tracks up and fill as much analog as we could. Okay. And that's what we did. And then we had everything pretty much like as the foundation of everything on the record was analog, with the exception of vocals and then certain overdubs. Yeah. Overdubs being like another guitar part or another keyboard part or something. Both Jason and Melissa play keyboard stuff. Dennis does too. It was kind of all hands on deck.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody's kind of a multi-instrumentalist. Whatever needs to be done can get done.
Yeah, it was, and it wasn't any like, I don't think there were any like sort of hurt feelings about like, oh, you played my part. I want to do that bit. Yeah, like that sort of thing. I don't think
whatever ends up sounding the best. There were a lot of, like, even if you go through the demos, there were a lot of tracks where Dennis played drums on a song and then you played drums on the same song, and then we'd listen back and just try to decide which works best.
Because when Dennis and I were alone trying to do the foundation of this thing, like we were very, very open to like which whoever can play it the best.
Yeah.
And there were times when, like, for example, like Dennis would get there was one song, every drummer goes through this, where the first time through it you got really close to nailing it, but you were totally vibing, like that should have been the take. Yeah. And then you're like, no, I got a better one in me. Right. You keep and then you just keep going, and then by like 6, like you should, like by the 6th time through the song, you're toast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then it starts going real downhill.
Yeah, it gets really bad. And those were, and like I watched, because Dennis like won't quit. Do you know what I mean? So like, you just go for the ride. But I'm not saying this to pick on Dennis. Everybody's been through it. I played drums on a bunch of records, and I've been there. Like I would every single time, like, okay, I'm speeding up the song. Everybody's telling me I'm speeding up the song. Every single person has told me I'm speeding up the song, so I'm going to slow it down. And so my brother, when I was in a band with my brother, he'd start the guitar, and I'd be like, okay, nice and easy now, nice and easy.
Right, got it.
Like, it goes so fast. Sure.
But that's the gamble of analog, is that you may have the best take, but you might have that itch that you can do it better, and then you have to make that decision. You're going to go ahead and tape over what you just did,
right?
And that's really I guess that's the excitement of digital versus analog, is that it's the risk, and the risk is exciting to do it again, because that might have been the best take. Hopefully what's left is the best take, and usually after you listen to it, it becomes the take that you are used to.
On this, Jason's right, but and everybody that's recorded analog knows this, but for us, we had very limited tape. So They're pretty much, there would be like at the most 2 versions of something. Like which one is, like when we had to weigh like which one is better. Yeah. And there would be 2 of them. Like that one's pretty good. I'll try it again. But if we're going to do a third take, we'd actually have to erase something. You know what I mean? But Jason's right. The gamble, actually, it's part of the joy of analog. I mean, I'm not going to poo-poo digital necessarily, but when I used to do 4-track stuff all the time, I used to really get a thrill out of bouncing. You record 3 tracks and bounce those 3 in mono onto the 4th track, and then like have to nail it. Yeah, like that's the mix, and then you build from there with the other 3 tracks.
There are robots stalking us here. Yeah, it's the idea of just you're forced to make choices, which is the beauty of analog recording.
Yeah, the bouncing the tracks, I learned a lot from that. It's something that just the whole thing about like committing. Like you have to commit to this. This is
your song.
Yeah, like this is the other thing that we wanted was like this sort of like it's not necessarily like, dude, can you hear my guitar? Can you hear my kick drum? Can you hear my, you know what I mean? Like that's the fight that bands get into all the time, the sort of sonic perfection. But the records that I respond to the most are always the ones that sound like this squishy mesh of song where maybe you can single out everything if you really got into it, but that's not what's important. What's important is the whole, the mess of it, the tune itself. So I like all
it's in the mud. The magic's in the mud. I think we've talked about that before. The magic's in the mud.
Yeah.
So with kind of everybody working different schedules and different combinations, how do you guys actually write songs? Because sonically, they are, I hate to use the term unique, but they're so unique. And even every track on the new record and the first record, there's just such a diversity in sound. Does that come from kind of people dropping in and out in a way?
Well, thanks for saying diversity.
Yeah.
I started wondering if every song kind of sounds the same.
Oh, no. You do not have to worry about that at all.
No.
That's nice to hear.
How
does the song begin, Ryan?
Ryan writes 99% of the songs, and then when we practice, they sometimes morph slightly, or we'll each have our own ideas.
It's a great question because it sets us up for this thing that we're doing on the release of this record, which is along with the release is a Bandcamp page that has all the very earliest demos of all the songs, and so actually you can hear how a song really from idea.
It's funny, I forgot about it. You're right. That is coming out.
Yeah.
But it's great because I've never really seen anyone do it put so much work into it.
It's actually cool because every track has like a blurb written sort of about the history of the song and sort of where it came from and how it changed.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things that's missing to me with digital is that, a couple years ago when the Stooges released like that 9-disc box set of, I think it was the Heavy Liquid sessions, and you got to hear, like maybe a 45-second version when they were building the song. To me, that's where the magic is finding how did it get to this place.
And when Ryan put together the Bandcamp that we're going to make public when a record comes out, it was actually really awesome to go back and hear the earlier versions, and some of it I was like, man, why did we even keep going? Like, why didn't we just stop with the scrappy
the
demo?
The magic is there.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, because some of it just like descended into like the best weird crazy like guitar crap. It was really good.
Some really noisy crap on that. The writing of the songs really is sort of by any means necessary. When I had a house. Because I live in an apartment now, but when I lived in a house, every single day I would come home from work and just play music, and then like if I had a scrap of an idea, I would record it, and that was it. Like every day was just another thing of like another potential song. Do you know what I mean? And it's not that I'm sitting on a bunch of songs because pretty much everything's out, but it's like I was just constantly working on the stuff. And in an apartment, I mean, the way I used to do it was I would either play bass or guitar. Usually I'd start on guitar, and I'd come up with a riff, then I would play drums to that riff, and then I would do a scratch melody, and then try to figure out lyric stuff later. But I never wanted the vocal melody to be an afterthought. Like, I wanted it to be, I will solidify the lyrics later, but the melody has to be, the vocal melody to me, I want it to be like part of, I don't want to be afterthought. No. I want it to be like a riff. I want it to be like
memorable.
Yeah,
it's music as much as the actual music.
Exactly, because we grew up in the 90s. There were a lot of bands that would just like write constant, like basically write instrumentals, and then put the vocals on as an afterthought.
There was a space in between them. You could hear it.
And I often thought I could. Yeah, I often thought I could hear it on the record. So with this band, like, it's always been, even though the vocals don't happen right away, except in a couple cases, some of them happen like instantly. I was like, just vibing out. But I would do, so in the apartment now, what I do is I play it like a riff, and then I'll hum something, and then I get my computer, and it used to be 4-track doing this, but now it's just, I pull up the computer and I record the roughest way possible just to get the idea down. And then sometimes I can't, because most of my life I've played drums, so I need a beat to follow, and I haven't figured out how to do the drum machine shit from fucking whatever GarageBand or whatever. So like a lot of times on the demos you'll hear me going like or I'll do claps
and speeding up too much.
Stomping and clapping.
Yeah, just stomp and clap. So there's like on that Bandcamp thing that's going to come out, you'll hear claps all over the place, and that's like, I just need a drummer, so I'm just doing that.
And when you're doing the vocals, do you hear the harmonies? Because the harmonies you guys put in there, they're never in the same place. Like, the only thing I can compare it to is when Natalie Merchant sings with David Byrne from Talking Heads, and their vocals just take these really cool harmonies. And
that's solid.
Does it just happen when you guys are actually singing, or?
I don't know. Ryan and I think have always had really similar, I don't know, musical tastes, and so especially in like when I first started hearing the stuff that Ryan was working on, instantly I was always hearing a melody. Like, it's just kind of pretty much everything you write, I can always hear melody. Sometimes it's different than what you come up with, and sometimes I like yours better. But then whatever vocal melody we go with, I can always hear harmonies to that. It just comes really easily.
So on the demos, the harmonies would be like when I harmonize with myself, when I'm recording by myself, some of them are okay. Do you know what I mean? And I bring them to the band, and I say, here's the demo for this. Let's work on this or whatever. Melissa rarely does the harmony that I did on the demo, or maybe even never. And it's like, and I prefer it because Melissa hears something else.
Sure.
And like her trying to like do my weird voice, like I don't have the golden pipes, like her trying to actually do my thing would be just terrible. But I never expect what Melissa does to a song, and it's always been that way. Like, as soon as she sings on something, I'm like, yeah, it's a song now. Like,
now we got it.
Yeah, it's like it's always pretty thrilling for me. There are some songs. A song called "Mental Anguish Is Your Friend." I had no idea what to do with vocals there, and I gave Melissa a cassette version of it, and she came back like the next day. It was very, very quick turnover.
That song wrote itself. Like, I heard your guitar riff, and I was like, got it.
When I wrote the riff, I was just like, it's impossible to put vocals on this. I'll just give it to Melissa.
It'll be an instrumental.
Like, I just couldn't hear a thing. I couldn't hear anything on it. So when I said, you got something? She's like, yeah, I'll come over. She drives over, and she records, like, I mean, it was so fast, her recording vocals on that song. And I remember setting up the mic and letting the tape run, and like, she's wearing headphones, I'm wearing headphones, and me going, oh wow, okay. Like, I had no idea what was going to happen. It's thrilling. And there are some moments on this, like Melissa did harmonies on stuff that some of them are full blown out there, and you can totally hear them. Some of them are really, really subtle, but those moments always kind of make the song for me. I'm a fan.
Absolutely. And since the leads are also shared, when you're writing the melodies and you're hearing it, are you like, okay, this is a song from Melissa? Or
honestly, a lot of times I want Melissa to sing more than me. And the balance is more in my favor. But like in my mind, everything I do, like I'd rather Melissa just take over. No, but it's like, but I write a barrage of lyrics. Like the lyrics are like, there's so much, and then I feel kind of bad. It's like, man, just memorize all that crap. Okay, I'll sing it. I guess. Like it's.
No, there's a lot of stuff that just works better if Ryan. Like there's just songs where I think his voice. I think it's usually to me it's very obvious like who will sound better in different parts.
But you know, you have this kind of dream of like you sing it this night, I sing it this night, or something like that. You know,
and just let it be.
And then you know I'll get on the mic to sing one of Melissa's songs, and you see the audience like, oh no, please don't do that.
Why are you singing "We Closed the Record Store"? That's not your song.
We've never done that, but I'm just saying
it'll happen.
That's the danger.
It'll happen. Right? And then you'll just have really odd looks from the whole audience.
I like switching it up though when we play live if we can. Yeah, I think we actually talked about doing one of the newer songs that we haven't played live yet. We were actually gonna swap who does the vocal parts just because it works better or easier when we're trying to play live.
So it was obviously 9 years between records.
Yes. Yes.
So
it really goes by fast.
Yeah. When you guys just started playing together again, was it natural or, you know, was there some rust to knock off?
It'll honestly probably a little bit of both.
Well, you were away for bulk at that time.
Yeah, I went away. Well, I was away for six years.
Yeah.
And doing other bands and other things.
Yeah, but I came back to town, and Melissa and I worked on some of the stuff that we hadn't released yet. Mm-hmm. And we did the 7-inch with Love It.
Yeah. Oh, and then I applied to play at South by Southwest for some reason, and then we were like, "Congratulations, you have a show!" And that's when we were like, "Oh, I guess we better figure this out."
Yeah. But we played. We did the first record, and we played live, and Justin Moyer played drums with us. Uh-huh. And then when I moved back to town from Michigan, because I was there for 5 years, maybe 6 years, I can't remember, but. When I moved back, we did the 7-inch while I was in Michigan, and then when I came back, we started playing right away because of this South by Southwest thing.
Yeah.
And we played with Mark Cisneros
on drums.
Yeah. But I'd say working together, like writing new songs, has been the same. The changes have been like the addition of Jason and the addition of Dennis. Mm-hmm. You know, Dennis we worked with as a recording engineer on the 7-inch. Uh-huh. But then him playing drums with us was
and playing drums was new essentially to Dennis too. Like he's one of those people who can like pick up anything and play it pretty well. But I think playing drums just like specifically was a challenge for him, and that's why he was kind of interested in playing with us. It was something new for him to tackle. Yeah,
but the songwriting has been, I'd say it's been pretty similar.
We're all the same people, and we've all been friends for so long.
And it's been like, I mean, the great thing about Soccer Team from the moment we started playing, when it was just Melissa, and even now that it's with Dennis and Jason, the thing that has maintained has been everybody's pretty open to what's coming through the door.
I think there's a lot of trust too. I mean, I feel like Ryan will have a pretty raw sounding song, like he'll know like where it's going, but then he'll just say like, Jason, like do something here, or like this is where Jason should do something crazy here. Yeah. Like I love when you do something crazy. Just do something crazy.
Do your crazy thing.
Do that crazy thing you do. And so, I love that that these guys just will trust us to help make a song better or push it into a unexpected direction. Mm-hmm.
And Jason. I'm talking about him like he's not here, but Jason is one of these.
Love this guy.
No, one of these guys that like a type of musician who, and we played together even before Soccer Team too. So I've known this about him, but he's a guy that actually isn't afraid to like jam and try to find something, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're in practice and there is a moment to actually, work on a part that doesn't exist yet, Jason will go into things that are melodic. And then he'll just go into things that aren't melodic, things that are dissonant, things that don't work, and then bring it back to what's worked. And he's fine with it. Like for me, I could probably do that if I'm keeping a beat and playing drums. But if I didn't know where I was going on guitar in front of everybody, I would be like, can I go home and work on this? And then I'll come back. Because just like kind of jamming and trying to find that thing, I feel like I'd be driving everybody crazy.
Yeah, I've always been way too self-conscious jam or try new stuff in front of other people.
Right. But so that's been another sort of great thing with Jason. And the other thing about the inclusion of Jason was that he played guitar in this band, Motorcycle Wars. Mm-hmm. And Motorcycle Wars was, a joke band. Sorry.
Sure.
It
was like the best joke band ever.
It's just, but it was very funny. And the vocalist Clark, he never had solidified lyrics ever, but they would make it through their set every night. Bonnie, the drummer, she hadn't played drums before, as far as I know, and she was really just figuring it out with every show. And Jimmy definitely had never held a bass before, and he played that with one finger.
Yeah.
But Motorcycle Wars was this thing that was super killer.
Uh-huh.
It was they were a force, and a cacophony, and they were frayed and all this kind of stuff. But Jason was the glue. Usually it's a drummer, your band's only as good as your drummer. That's the backbeat sort of thing. In this case, and I'm not saying anything bad about Bonnie, but in this case, the band was falling apart at every level,
running off the road.
except
time.
Jason would have his legs kind of spread with his guitar really low, like Ramon style.
Your hair was kind of low.
And his hair was in his face, and you could just see him just working through the riffs, and it was so killer. So part of that.
But when Ryan says the band was falling apart, it was also in the most epic.
Yeah.
Amazing way. It was such a amazing
it's true creation at its most raw.
Yeah.
Right. But but to have this thing, and Motorcycle Wars is a far cry from Soccer Team, but to have this Jason's style of playing where he's holding it together, right? And he knows when the music, if I'm really going to dissect it and sound nerdy, he knows when it can get frayed and get insane, and then bring it back to this, there's always a level of slop that is acceptable and good, because that's where slop is a bad way to put it, but that's where the soul is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just something you lean into, this thing.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of scrappier, especially recordings. If things are after a while, things start sounding too slow. Although there are records, of course, that I love that are super produced and super slick.
Yeah.
But that's not something that I think we can do.
You want a good level of grind, a little bit of grit to it, so you can feel the record out. Speaking of kind of the first record and the second record, you redid Here's Why Dancers Smoke. It's a different version. Yeah,
we did that because we've never played it, the fast version of that. The original version, we've never played it like that live.
Okay.
In fact, I did that as a demo. If you listen to the original version on the first record, you can actually hear my furnace kick on at the end of the song. It's and I'm fade it out. And I tried. I was I love this song. I think it's charming. And I tried over and over and over again to make a clean version of that based on the demo, and it sucked every time. And so when we were putting out the record, I was just that version is the version.
So that's actually the demo that is on the album.
But that's the only version that actually worked.
The demo was on the very first record.
Right. Yeah.
And this one, we started. I think when we were playing shows way back, you were just kind of joking around. You started playing it real slow.
Yeah.
And then we immediately just started singing, and I was that kind of works.
Yeah, it totally. Yeah, it was great, and that was when Justin was playing drums with us. But that's the only way we played it live. We played it like that. We also did it. Just the two of us. We played a set at Galaxy Hut, which was just Melissa and I.
With no drums.
And we played that song that way.
I like that song on the record. It has this bridge, this heavy section, and if you notice that there's a very high harmony, and the only person who could hit this super high note was actually Dennis.
Well, Dennis was I want to do it all Beach Boys style. And then he's
so because these guys are doing this harmony and it's pretty, and then Dennis he had this vision it needed something even higher, but no one could go up in the stratosphere, and then he was able to just nail this super high note.
Yeah,
but it's real subtle.
And put enough reverb on it just to get it in there.
It's a total Beach Boys hook. If you listen to it, if you listen to that one part of the song,
it's pretty cool.
You can hear him as the part is sort of
kind of
descending.
Decaying,
it's totally
really
a subtle nod.
Yeah. And it was and that was great to watch Dennis do that.
So, you move from almost minimalist arrangements like that to just these really robust and full sounds all across the record. When you were doing it, were you conscious that, wow, these are, that far apart? Did it make tracking, doing the track order on the record difficult, just trying to fit them together?
You mean like the sequencing of the record?
Yeah.
Like the order?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
The order of the record...
Because we spent a lot of time on the sequencing, trying to see how one song could go into another.
Yeah.
And you love that.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
No, but it's like sequencing is really important to me.
Yeah.
Like it does have to lead you, I think, somewhere. And bring you back.
Really, our MO was just listening to, like, does this song go into the next song? Does the song, like, you don't want everything to be like fast. Here's a slow one. Here's a fast one. Here's a slow one.
Sure.
Like, it has to be this, sort of coast around like that.
But the first track was Ian listening to the record, and when I gave a copy of the record to Ian, I had no idea if he would even be interested in putting it out. I mean, at all. It wasn't like it's done, here you go,
Yeah.
But it was more just
we're on the label.
Yeah,
you have to put
yeah.
this out. Like, it wasn't. No, we were very much like, if Discord wants to put it out, we would love that. But
yeah, I don't even think I even said that. I think I had told him that we were just about done mixing, and he's like, "Oh, I'd love to hear it," and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, I don't know. I just didn't really. I don't know. I guess sometimes I just don't like to expect things.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he gave me his feedback, that was like the one thing that he wanted the first track first, and I was like, "Okay, if you'll put it out, if we do that, of course." Then,
sure.
Yeah.
that was. I'd say that was my original intention, was to have that song. When we first started recording, that was the song that, because the demo of that song is a minute, maybe less than a minute, but that's when I was fully like, oh, we're making a record like this. Like, I got really, really excited about that, and that song is a crazy ride of how that song, like, Jason actually brought this fully developed song to us that I put vocals on, and then we just kept pulling back and back. When we tried to play it as a band, it just wasn't clicking as a band, and we just kept going back and back
and simplified into
until bass
a song
and
that
vocals.
really is just bass and vocals.
Yeah, but it was actually like a full keyboard song initially.
Yeah. But it ended up just not working that way. It worked how we stripped it down, just ended up making more sense.
Yeah.
The song felt
and
right.
also, if it's the first song on the record, is it Problems?
Yeah.
But the Ryan in my vocals going back and forth, that was another weird happy accident that happened.
A mistake that was...
It was a tape machine mishap.
Yeah. Well, no,
Really?
I did on the 8-track. I just played the beat, and then I played the bass while Melissa was at work, and I just recorded bass and drums. And the idea was that I would play this thing and then have Jason put his keyboards on it, and we developed this thing, and I had the vocals all worked out, but I wanted Melissa to sing it, right? So, and I had the lyrics, and Melissa hadn't really heard the melody, so I did a scratch track for the melody while Melissa was at work, but I didn't time it right. So I just kind of threw it on there, like, as soon as the song started, like, I just started singing or whatever. And then Melissa listened to it, figured out what it was. We pulled my vocals out, and then she did it right, where she like waited before she started singing instead of like this like blurting it out. So my vocals were like all over the place on the tape,
They were
kind
off.
of buried.
Yeah.
Off. And then when we mixed it, like I mixed it with her, but like my track was like halfway up, and it did this like almost like in a round effect. And then we were like, oh.
Yeah, the look on Ryan's face when you're like, oh, and then we were both kind of like, this is kind of cool.
Kind of weird, kind of cool.
What's wrong with it?
Weird, kind of cool.
I mean, I'd love to say like, from the get-go, I just heard all these vocals. But like, it wasn't like that at all. It was just me laying down a scratch track and then pulling it up at random. And it just, because it was on beat, it matched.
Right,
so
right.
It just happened to be not the vocals that she was singing at all. And that's why that piece of that song, the demo, is only a minute long, because it just got ruined after that. There's nothing you can do with it.
And it gave us the idea.
The titles to both the albums and the songs are complex. They're not, it's the only way to say it. Do you have the titles beforehand? Do they,
I'd say no. The titles always come after the vocals. After the vocals are written.
Okay.
And usually it'll be a reference to what the song is about, or it'll be something that's maybe just referencing the lyrics, but it's kind of to amuse ourselves.
Sure.
But it amuses us to have a very long title, kind of like the Smiths.
Sure.
Stop me if you've
Sure.
heard this one before, or something like. Isn't that the name of the song? Like.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like the Smiths have a couple song titles that are actual sentences.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it all the time.
Is that why the first album has a very lengthy title to it?
The first album has volunteered civility and professionalism came from. There's a song in that record called Traffic Patterns.
Yep.
Which references this. Like I got attacked while I was riding my moped, and part of that song came out of this terrible experience I had where I got attacked. I had to go to court. I had to be a witness to the crime against myself, and I had to deal with the U.S. attorneys and all that kind of thing, who defended me, and things that turned out okay.
Well, you weren't being defended, but yeah, they were prosecuting.
Right. But I'm saying like it was like I meant it in terms of like being taken care of.
Sure.
Right.
But it was really scary and bad. But I had an email exchange with the attorney, and she wrote something at some point that she was being volunteered, with quotes. She was being volunteered to go to this thing on civility and professionalism or something like that. And because that song meant a lot to me on the record, and I thought that email was particularly funny. That's how that actually came up. I think you might be the only person who's ever asked me that.
Yes. That is what I aim
I think
for.
It's the only, and that song, like I don't like the song isn't like I got attacked, I got beat up,
Sure.
like it's not like anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's this thing of like you get to know the traffic patterns as you come across the lights, the way the reds turn to green, right? And it's like when you're timing everything and everything is falling in a line, like you can see the green or like it's about to turn green, and you just make it, and you just make it, and you just make it. And the randomness, like on a bike, cruising, doing that very thing, and then just to be pulled off, yanked, and be attacked from out of nowhere, jarred me completely. And the really nasty line on the record, which doesn't sound nasty at all, is, "So you've lived your life avoiding courts and lawsuits." It's like, yeah, great for you, good for you. You've lived your life avoiding courts and like, hooray, like the sort, like, I know it sounds like pity party for me, but it comes from like a pretty angry place. Yeah. So that's volunteer civility and professionalism comes from that U.S. attorney.
There we go.
Sorry.
So it was 9 years between albums 1 and 2. Is it going to be another 9 years for album 3?
Oh, I don't know. Hope not.
Look into the future.
We're working on new stuff, and I hope that's not the case. Like we have a bunch of new ideas. We're gonna play a show in a couple weeks, and we have new songs.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We've been working on the record that's about to come out for so long that those songs seem really old at this point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely.
I think with Soccer Team though is that it's like to me it's mostly just like hanging out with people in a basement that I really like hanging out with. So. It's kind of like...
Yeah, it's not this weight of the world pressure, like, we've got to get a release out.
Yeah.
Do the album.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Like, I just have fun playing with these guys, and, if we start, like, being all goal-driven, it could be less than fun, so...
My thanks again to Ryan, Melissa, and Jason for spending some time with me, and to everyone at Discord Records for making it happen, and, well, for being the awesome people at Discord Records, right? Who doesn't love those guys? You can find tour dates and get your copy of the new record over at discord.com, so go do that now. Seriously, right now. Hit pause and go do it. Before we get out of here, I do, of course, have your weekly Earfuel listening assignment. For those of you new to the podcast, each week I assign an album to listen to in full without distraction. It comes from the idea that I believe music has become relegated to a background role. You're driving, you're at work, you're working out, whatever. And this is about taking time to listen to music just for the sake of listening to music. And this week's assignment is the self-titled album from Rites of Spring. Released on Dischord Records back in 1985, this is really the beginning of emo-core music, and no, it has nothing to do with Hot Topic or Dyed Hair. This is where hardcore music makes a bit of a left turn, and it remains a record I honestly couldn't live without. The band is anchored by the guitar of Eddie Janey, and the distortion, it forces a smile onto your face, and really, it just gets you up, gets you invigorated, and it pulls you into this album so quickly. There's so much damn power from his sound, and it smashes brilliantly into the unparalleled rhythm section of Mike Fellows and Brandon Canty. The songs are just unrelenting, and countless bands have pulled some, if not all, of their influence from these guys. And of course, you have the vocals of Guy Picciotto, and yes, for those of you doing math, that is half of what would become Fugazi, but we can talk about them later. Ferocity is an understatement when it comes to the music you find on this record, with songs like For Want Of standing today as nothing short of anthemic as far as I'm concerned. It's just one of those tracks you can live a life around, and it sticks with you forever. You've got songs like Other Way Around, Persistent Vision. I mean, these have all become classics, and they overflow with emotions, and it's also the sort of music that makes you feel like you found where you belong. I don't know. I can't explain it. To know this record is to love this record, and you can find this as the self-titled version, or more recent releases are actually listed as End on End, and it has their 1987 7-inch tacked on to the end. Go get Rites of Spring. Your life will be better for it. So that's what we got for today. As always, you can find me on Twitter at @TheDailyGuru and at @GetEarfuel. We're over at SoundCloud.com/GetEarfuel. And hey, if you've got the iTunes iOS app, you can find us just simply as Earfuel. And you know what? If you dug the podcast, do me a favor. Go tell a friend or three, all right? That's your weekly Earfuel. Share and enjoy.